So today we're going to talk about pumpkins, and I have a nice fake pumpkin here, and how when I'm holding this in my hands I have an actual 3D form. So when artists make a still life and they have real objects in front of them, they are three-dimensional, they're not flat. But when we draw them, we're trying to draw them on a flat piece of paper and still create this illusion of 3D. One of the ways you can do that, you can kind of see this right now, my pumpkin is casting a shadow. So right now the light's kind of coming from this side, it's lighter here and here, and it's darker along this edge and along the bottom, and I have a shadow. So when you draw things and you want to make this piece of paper kind of create this illusion of form, visual form, the key is to create highlights and shadow, to use value. So we're going to do a simple pumpkin drawing today, thinking about that. Now to help us with our blending, we're going to use oil pastels today. So I'm going to start. I have a kind of a nubbly looking little oil pastel with this oval. You can see I still have a little room above and below, just for size. I'm going to make a shape off to the side. I'm going to kind of keep it balanced. It does not have to be perfectly symmetrical. Pumpkins are notoriously lumpy and bumpy. Sometimes they have flat spots where they've been lying in the pumpkin patch. And these got a little bit smaller as they went around. This is the largest one. What I'm trying to do is kind of show this kind of these sections that pumpkins get. So 5 is a nice amount. Of course, yours might be larger, might fill the paper a little bit differently. They're organic, so they're going to take different shapes. I'm going to add a little stem. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little bit of value. I have this nice line drawing, so I'm going to take my oil pastels and I'm just going to kind of, now it's hard to even tell what color this is. It's been, and see how I'm using the flat side out. It was a very pale blue. It wasn't even what I expected. I thought it was brown. There. And I'm just going to create a little bit of shading here. So already I'm kind of creating a 3D effect. Notice I'm kind of doing the bottom edges where the light wouldn't hit. And you can kind of see how I'm kind of creating this rounded effect a little bit. And I have like a warmer brown here. So I started with the shade, the shadows, the darkest color was that chocolatey brown. Now I'm kind of going with a warmer, more orangey brown. Then I'm going to switch to orange, and I'm overlapping and layering these colors. Oil pastels blend really nicely. So when I layer them, they blend. You can also smudge them a little bit with your fingers. Depends on how much you enjoy having oil pastel on your fingers. I'm really trying to fill in and cover up the white of the paper so it's a nice solid looking pumpkin. And again, you don't have to smudge it with your fingers. If you keep going over and make a nice layer of oil pastel, it will blend. And I'm going to add some yellow up here for highlights. Now I want these to be kind of gradual, so I'm going to go back and layer over the top of it. But see how I can add some yellow to the orange? And pumpkins do kind of have like little streaks and flaws and things in them. This one kind of has like little splatters. It almost looks like little freckles. There's definitely so much more variety of pumpkins these days. When I go to the farmers markets and out for a drive, I see all these different types of pumpkins, different colors now. So this one is definitely more of a traditional pumpkin. I've seen white ones, gray ones, some really long ones that look like python snakes. They have all different kinds of gourds and pumpkins these days. It makes it really fun. So I've kind of got a highlight here. Now I'm going to work back up with a little bit more orange. And again, it can have a little bit of a streaky effect. They definitely have that. Notice how I'm kind of going up and down vertically, not across though, and that really works better with the shape of the pumpkins. That definitely fits kind of the way the skin of the pumpkin or the surface of the pumpkin looks when you see one. So I'm getting this nice kind of 3D pumpkin effect, but it's kind of floating on my paper. And it's just a pumpkin in the middle of the paper. See how I can blend that? Keep going over it. And what it's doing, it's getting rid of the white of the paper really nicely. And again, I'm going up and down, moving this kind of motion in each of these sections. So I have a nice pumpkin here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is kind of ground my pumpkin. I want it sitting somewhere. So I'm just tilting this a little bit. So I'm going to make like a shadow under my pumpkin, because you saw when I held this one over, it casts a shadow where the light's hitting. So this one's solid pumpkin, it's going to cast a shadow, it's going to block the light. And then you can think about creating a simple background. It's sitting in some grass. Outside, if you have a sky. Students actually did a couple different things. This one's mine. This is one from earlier in the day. And they made a nice night sky, which I thought was very clever, and I love their purple shadow here in the green grass. This is great. I think one of the reasons why this is so appealing is because it's using secondary colors. I've got orange, purple, and green, and those are secondary colors, and we think about those kind of fall colors. So that's a lovely example. So there we go. Now mine's sitting there, and I can add a sky. I can think about, I liked that night sky that they created. So there's a lot of options, but what I really wanted to go for was that creation of 3D form with highlights and shadows and kind of creating that sensation of a rounded pumpkin. This is a nice gray. I'm going to use this to see if I like that for my background. And of course, one of the things we always want to do is make sure that we have our name on our paper. I'm going to use a nice bright red. I'd like you to get in the habit of just doing your first name on your paper so that we can upload these onto Artsonia, and they'll be ready to go with your name right on them and not too much information, just the right amount. And there we go, adding a little bit of red just for fun.